So there's a chance that we might never get The Mandalorian Season 3. And while that does suck, we did get a phenomenal Season 1 and even a more incredible Season 2 with some iconic moments that are not going to be soon forgotten. Like, for instance, we got to see the beloved Bo-Katan from the Clone Wars series come to life in The Mandalorian Season 2 episode The Heiress, and then a few more on top of that. Now, the reality is the actress that plays her, Katie Sackhoff, actually does her voice acting in the original Clone Wars, and that is something that we have never seen. We have never seen basically an animated character come to life in this manner, because remember, Bo-Katan was an animated character first before we got to see her make the jump to live action, and that's something that, again, we haven't really seen. Even some of the characters that we have seen have been maybe from a book or maybe from something else that we haven't seen before, or how we got to see Boba Fett. You know, we saw him live action first many decades ago, and now here we are again. So the reality is that this is something new, and hopefully a trend that will pick up so that we can continue to see more characters come to life. And again, there's nothing more iconic than being able to see the same person that does the voice acting in the animated series to make the jump and be the face itself in the show. But while we might not be able to see where the Bo-Katan story might have gone because of the turmoil that Disney is going through, we do get to see this right here, this badass Bo-Katan figure from the Black series, and man, this is one hell of a figure. Let me go ahead and break it down for you guys and see if it's really something that's going to be worth adding to your collection. All right, let's get it. All right, you guys, so this episode is sponsored to you by Load Up Freight Management. We find the loads that pay what you want going where you want. Now listen, if you've been paying attention to the trucking industry, you'll know it's a $1 billion industry. And currently right now, there's a really huge backup of work, which is the reason why we're not even seeing a lot of these guys in stores right now. So please link up with my guys at Load Up so that we can go ahead and start getting all this moving again. And we can go ahead and start finding some cool ass action figures on the streets again at our local Targets, Walmarts, and comic book shops. Load Up Freight Management. Go ahead and check in the description below for the website and link up with my guys. Alright, you guys, so here we have Bo-Katan Kryze still in the package, and damn does it look good. I'm really happy that they gave us the unmasked version and not wearing the helmet, because you can tell just from looking through that it is a badass looking figure, and that really looks like that's Katie Sackhoff, and I think that they've done a great job. So here we have the front of the box. Beautiful animated shot of her on the side. It looks very good, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to see a really nice setup once we get some of the other figures that'll come in this line. On the back, we do get the same photo, just a little bit closed up, and then we have the Bo-Katan Kryze bio on the side. A gifted warrior. Bo-Katan Kryze is a legendary Mandalorian. She refused to align with the Empire's occupation of Mandalore. Definitely a dope looking piece overall. And then on the side, we just get a little bit of on the Star Wars The Black series, and again towards the front, this is a wonderful looking package. Definitely, if you're just buying these just to keep them in the box, this is one of those that's really going to impress. And I knew that from the moment I saw the figure online, and when I saw it on the shelf, man, there is nothing else that can top how good this looks. Alright, you guys, and here we have her, the heiress herself, Bo-Katan Kryze, out of her box, and she looks phenomenal. If it wasn't for the fact that I can see some of the articulating points, some of the cuts in the armor, I would almost say I'm looking at her straight out of the show. This is a phenomenal figure. They've done a pretty good job bringing us some pretty dope stuff from the Mandalorian, and this is just continuing that, and I am so happy I was able to get this one. Now, long story short, I actually accidentally ordered from multiple places, so here I have multiple pieces. So I may keep them, I may sell them, we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and give you a breakdown of the actual full 360 of what we're getting here. Alright, so from the front, let me go ahead and give you guys a little zoom in. Let me start from the very top of the figure itself. So this is exactly what we got in the Mandalorian series itself. We do have her helmet, which is very nice. It has that lighter blue color on the side, white around the face of it, which is fairly unique, and then some markings all the way through. And there is a little bit of battle damage, as you can see. It's kind of dirty. I like that. it looks really dope, and I'm just realizing it as I'm looking at it through the video that I believe this is a night owl armor. I mean, look at that. Isn't that an owl right fucking there? That's really dope, dude. That is incredible that we even get to look at that. So then we do have the silver for the Beskar on the chest, which does look pretty cool. A little bit of engraving going down the middle around the chest area, which is pretty dope. If we go ahead and pull her to the side, she has a pretty good up down pose, and we have a little bit of that I guess the night owl stuff on the shoulder pad, more of that blue, the browns for the leather and the straps. The under armor itself is a slight gray brown, dark charcoal gray brown. That's pretty dope. More of the blue on the gauntlet, and then as you can tell, a little bit of battle damage. If we go to the back, she does have her jetpack, obviously, and it looks phenomenal. I don't know if it's because Bo-Katan is a smaller Mandalorian figure, but her jetpack feels a little bit smaller, but it doesn't look small. It looks perfect for her body size. But I'm just kind of surprised that they wouldn't just be oversized, since, you know, I imagine they're supposed to be interchangeable with other Mandalorians maybe in a real fight. But anyways, it does look good. Blues, grays, whites on the back, silvers. This looks really good on my camera. It's picking up phenomenally. Then we do have the belt, where she has all kinds of her utility belt, looking like Batman here. She has a bunch of belt pockets with stuff that they would probably use in battle. And then we see the bottom of the trousers done pretty well, and then you can see the guns on each side. Let me go and twist around one more time. Same stuff as on the other side. Blues, the night owl stuff, the grays, the gauntlets themselves, and here we do get some of the I don't know if this is supposed to, I never saw her use it. I can't really tell if it's necessarily a missile or the whistles that the Mandalorians use, so it probably is one of those, but that is pretty fucking cool. And then I don't know if I mentioned this right here, but on the helmet there's a blue right here that is different from the blue on the bottom side. It's like a darker blue. So it's kind of nice that they kind of break up some of that blue color on the top end. And then if we come to the front, let me go ahead and show you. Oh, I may not have mentioned it, but this antenna right here, I'll show it to you guys later. It articulates down, but I'll cover that during articulation. And there she is, Bo-Katan herself. Now, Katie Sackhoff, this is honestly the facial printing that they're doing on these $20 figures is incredible. You know, before I used to get things like SH Figure Arts, and I still will. If they make SH Figure Arts of Bo-Katan, I still will buy it. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I used to pass up Star Wars stuff, but now that they're getting better in quality, better in overall build and design, but this 3D printing of Katie Sackhoff, oh my god, this looks like it came right out of the show. This looks like it's her really looking back at you. This was done incredibly well. The orange of the hair, the bone structure, as you can tell, she does have some cheeks, the lips themselves, the overall shape of the head, the hair. This is exactly what it looked like in the show. It's almost like they really 3D printed her right off of the first episode where they introduced her in the Heiress, and it is done phenomenally well. She looks good whether you want to pose her with her helmet on or with her helmet off in your diorama. It's going to look phenomenal. I am definitely impressed. I knew this was going to be a good figure. I knew that this was going to be one of the better ones that we were going to get, because she's such a fan favorite. Everybody loves her character, and everybody wants to obviously see where that story is going to unfold. Whether or not we actually get it is yet to be seen. But overall, this is just a wonderful looking figure. Head overall. Let me go ahead and bring her just a little bit closer. Look at that, man. Doesn't that fucking look like her? Doesn't that look like fucking Katie Sackhoff? Like, for real, like, they did a great job of encapsulating the actress herself, which is honestly what we want, right? We want to be able to see these figures and know that we're getting a good representation of what the figure looks like in real life, or in its animated purpose, or whatever the case may be. Not like some of the Mandalorian we got with Pedro Pascal. It looks nothing like the actor, but this is tier 1 for what is basically a $20 to $22 figure. Now, for the legs, we do get a lot of that same undertone charcoal gray brown on the bottom for the basically the pants all the way down, and then we do see at the boots it's more of a solid dark brown, which is really nice. It definitely gives more depth, so it's not just a sea of this brownish gray color. When we get down here, it is brown colored, and we do have straps which are for the most part almost the same color, maybe the slightest bit different. Yeah, you know what, they are slightly different colored brown for the straps, and that looks super clean, man. This is done very good. I'm very impressed. When we come to the front, we do get more of the armor colors, that light baby blue color on the knees and then on the shins, and it's done very nicely. And of course there's some wear and tear, some battle damage, and we do see that there. And let me go ahead and lift up just a little bit for the boots, and then as you can tell, they're basically the same kind of brown color, and they're done fairly well. They have what they're supposed to, a little bit of what looks like armor, a little bit of a granulated look. That's actually kind of dope, man. I really like that. I really like that it's not just like smooth. They could have very easily have just made it look generic, but there's definitely a little bit of color and look there, aesthetically styled. All right, so when it comes to the accessories that she comes with about as much as anybody else does. I have yet to see somebody that has a lot on them, so this is actually pretty good. She comes with a helmet, her jetpack as you've seen, and her 2 blasters. No, these are not the blasters that we have seen on other figures before. I believe these are fairly different. They run mostly the same general look. There you go. But they are slightly different, and when I get to the comparisons, to the size comparisons of other figures, I'll go ahead and show you what I mean. But these do look a little different, but they look a lot like what we see in the show itself, so pretty cool. And so we do get 2 of those. I'll show you the other one. But as you can tell, just more of a gray all around. The plastic there was basically molded in, and the brown for the grips, which again I really like. The helmet itself is really good looking, as you guys noticed before. It does have plenty to it to make it seem very three-dimensional. This definitely fits her very well. It is maybe the slightest bit loose on Bo-Katan's head, but not loose in the sense that it'll come right off. It definitely won't. It just does have a little bit of wiggle room. And then I know I said I was going to do this earlier, but it does go forward right over the eye, as you can see right there, and you can't bring it all the way back like that. So not that you would, but it is pretty cool that it does have that articulated function. And then the jetpack itself, which again, as you can tell, is done phenomenally well. The blues, the silvers, I realized there's no white. It just looked like there was white. And then just a flat, but you see what I mean? This is what they could have made it look like. And instead they made it look like this. And that is really nice. I'm really happy that they did that. The, I don't know, is this a missile on the top? Probably. It looks pretty dope, and for the most part does its job correctly and fits on her back really nicely. Now I know that her belt doesn't necessarily come off unless you want to heat up her torso and split her, but if you did want to do that, you'd probably be able to get the belt off. But I just wanted to show it because it is kind of an accessory itself. These holsters, they're nice. They fit the guns really tightly. They are not gonna fall out, and overall it's done pretty nicely. The colors, the belt colors, again, they could have made it just a whole solid brown, but the fact that we get some paint definition in the parts that are supposed to be metal, greatly appreciated. All right, so Bo-Katan's articulation is actually done pretty nicely. I was afraid that because she was single jointed, that it might be just that 90 degrees at the arms and the legs, but she surpasses both, but we'll get into that in a second. So basically from the top, let me go ahead and just adjust the camera in the slightest. Let me zoom in so you guys can get a better view of her head. So she's a Mandalorian and has just, look at that. She has a beautiful up-down pose. Fucking love it. And then if we look at the head itself, it is on a ball hinge, so it does go all the way around like that, and it does tilt about that much to the side, definitely enough to get some character out of it. And then actually it might not be on a ball hinge, just a ball, but it does go up about that far and then can look down about that much. So there's definitely a lot of personality there. You can get her into some really cool posing with the head. It could be a little bit more, but for the most part you get most of what you're going to need, so I can't fault them. Now, what's kind of cool about the shoulders is that they kind of did a Storm Collectibles style thing here. So just like Storm Collectibles, her shoulders are actually made out of a kind of smoother, softer, more malleable plastic, almost rubbery. And it's kind of nice because when you push into it, you can feel it giving way. And so what that allows us to do is to actually kind of get under there, and then you can basically hide that entire piece, which I have no idea why this is such a problem amongst all the other stuff that Hasbro puts out in terms of Star Wars. Why can't they just do this for everything? Look at that. That hides it perfectly. It goes in smoothly. Is it necessarily correct? It might not be, but I don't give a damn. This works really nicely. And she does get a pretty solid T-pose all the way through. It could go a little higher, but it goes high enough for somebody that would have shoulder armor. And then she does have a little bit of a butterfly joint. You're not really going to be able to see it, but it does go forward that much and backwards that much. So it does add an extra layer of articulation, and that is nice. It gives her that little extra that a lot of times they don't put on these female characters. And I'm happy that maybe because she's an armored character, they're able to do that, but it comes out really nicely. And again, it's very smooth. It has a very firm movement to it when you are moving the articulation. Now, when it does come to the biceps, we do get a basically 90-degree one cut. And so we do get up about this far, which is about 90 degrees. And then we do get a little bit extra right there at the top, which gets her noticeably past 90 degrees. Now, listen, a double joint that allows her to basically sandwich her arm is always going to be pretty dope. But in terms of the aesthetic and how much you actually need to be able to get Bo-Katan in the poses that you want, this is more than enough. One joint past 90 degrees. Now, noticeably past 90 degrees actually creates that V shape right there. Wonderful. You don't need more than this. And could it help? Sure, but I mean, she's not holding a two-handed rifle. She's holding, you know, two blasters. So this is going to get you most of the posing that you need. And then on top of that, it does go left and right. So it does hinge right there. You can get a full 360. So that is pretty dope. Again, you can get all the posing that you really need out of those arms without needing to overcomplicate it with the double jointing. Now, she does have two blasters, and here's where I was afraid that they were going to mess this up because I just opened up a Tusken Raider and it has this problem. But she luckily does have the cowboy wrist, the gunslinger wrist, and so you can point it down about that far, and then it does go up about that far. And then on this other arm, it's the exact same articulation, and again, she does have two blasters, and she does have two cowboy grips for the fists, which is dope. Sometimes they give us one that does the more of the hinge, and then the other one does the slide, and that kind of sucks, especially when they're holding two pistols. So it's nice that Bo-Katan came with both of the cowboy articulation for the hands. Now, when it does come to the body, there is going to be a slight hindrance, but let's see. If I put her arms up and I do the full 360, yep, you can get a full 360 out of it. It's tight, which is good. And then you can go back about that far, which is pretty damn good. And then even with the armor in the way, she can go forward the slightest bit. So it is enough to give her that extra level of personality in her posing, which is definitely nice. Now, when it comes to the legs, there's not really much hindrance here. She can get about that far into her splits pose, which is pretty good. And then actually she does have upper thigh armor right there, which probably does hinder it in the slightest bit. Not enough to really, it's probably negligible, but it does look good, and it does do a good job of hiding the fact that the upper thigh does have a cut right there. And so you can get her to twist it basically a full 360, which is really nicely done. It gives her a good range of articulation. And then at the knees, if we go ahead and put her like that, it is a single joint, and it does come up 90 degrees is about right there, and it continues to go up to make a nice V. So again, it does go up pretty far, and then it does also twist side to side. So if she was on the ground hurt, bitch. No, but she'd be okay. that Beskar armor would do its thing. Okay, so it does go pretty far, and I kind of like the fact that the as you guys saw there, the knee guards are basically attached to the top part, so that when she does bend backwards, it doesn't go with the leg. And I feel like I like that better. Visually speaking, I think that makes more sense, and I'm glad that they did that with this specific character. Now, the foot itself does come forward. Holy hell, that's pretty damn far. She's a ballerina, guys. That works really fucking good. And then it goes forward, also pretty far forward. She can kick you hard as shit, so that's pretty dope. And then we do have the ankle pivot, which does allow it to go, you know, break her ankles in either direction. So this is a phenomenally posed figure. And then the other side can do the exact same style of articulation. Guys, just like I anticipated, Bo-Katan is a phenomenal figure. There is no denying the fact that this is one of the best figures we've gotten from the Black Series. Now, it could be because she's a slightly smaller character that maybe there's a little bit more money left over in the budget to do really cool things here, but this is a phenomenal figure. I'm not going to stop saying it. I loved Bo-Katan in the series herself, and every time she was on screen, I thought she was a dope character, and I think that the representation and transition between the Clone Wars show and this war and The Mandalorian has been pretty seamless. Star Wars Black Series for quite some time now has been upping its game, and I think we are now reaching the zenith of what's going to be basically the top quality stuff that we're going to be getting from them. This Bo-Katan was done very nicely. It feels good in your hand. The articulation itself doesn't feel really like ratchety, you know what I mean, like it ratchets. This actually just feels nice and tight, and you basically push until you reach a certain point, and then everything just kind of poses in place really nicely. All the joints are tight, all the joints are smooth. The amount of articulation you get is everything you need at this figure. At this price point of about $20, this is a steal of a figure, and you get two ways to pose her, with a helmet and without. Again, that's really badass for the price point. I don't want to hear anybody moving forward tell me that there's any excuse for any manufacturer at $20 to not be able to do something that's this good and fairly unique too, because this isn't a lot of reuse. This is I think as far as I can tell, none of this is reuse, especially because of the size of the figure. If I put her up next to anybody, even Cara Dune, I don't think there's any reuse. We might see some reuse between this and the new Costco Reeves that they just announced, but even without that, just as it sits, there's enough money poured into this, and I love it. And basically anything that comes out Mandalorian, I think is going to be definitely worth it for you to buy. Now, as the show sits, we're not even sure if we're going to be getting a Mandalorian season 3, so there's a possibility that this could be maybe not the end of the show, but a certain end in the story for now. I know that they're going to be doing the Ahsoka show, but even that's apparently in limbo right now, so I don't know in which direction we're going to go, and it could be a while before we see an updated Bo-Katan. Not even just updated, but you know, just a different kind of armor, or what they're going to do with her. This might be the only way to get a physical representation of Bo-Katan for quite some time, so I would definitely suggest you get it. It is available in multiple different places right now, and if for whatever reason you can't find it, I'm telling you right now, kind of like Cara Dune, this is worth the premium. This is definitely a cut above a regular $20 figure. Is it worth $60 right now? No. Is it worth $35? It could be. I think $35 might be a medium ground if you really can't find it and you really want to just secure your hands on it. Anywhere between, you know, really high 20s to mid 30s might be okay to buy. Anything above that is starting to get a little too pricey, at least for my taste. I got multiple of them at price, plus shipping and stuff like that, so I paid more or less between, you know, $27 and $30 for this. So for me, it doesn't hurt me so much to pay that kind of price, especially considering what I'm getting here. This is a phenomenal piece. All right, and what is a review without some size comparison? So let's go ahead and get it started. All right, so first off, we do have Cara Dune, and as you can tell, they are fairly close in overall height. If you were to take off the helmet for Bo-Katan, you would see that she is probably the slightest bit shorter, but I did want to show it with her helmet on because it's going to be the maximum amount of size that we're going to get here. But even without it, as you can tell, they are both almost identical in size. They're different in shape, but overall you can definitely tell that Cara Dune is a much more thicker girl. She has a slightly bigger frame overall than Bo-Katan, and that is pretty accurate. She is a larger character, and I actually think she is probably supposed to be a little bit taller, but for the most part I think it works for what we're getting here, and they are phenomenal looking right next to each other. As you can tell, the female characters have been getting a lot of love from Black Series. Now here we have on the right the armor, and as you can tell she's actually a little bit smaller than both of them. Her helmet makes her about the same size as both of them, and then if I add the helmet over here you can tell that Bo-Katan is the slightest bit taller. Now she is wearing a bit more of like a tunic and all this extra stuff, and so it does make her seem the slightest bit bigger than, let's say, Bo-Katan, but in all honesty, if anything, she's the slightest bit smaller. She's the smallest one out of all three of these, again for the exception of the way that you see the armor and all the overlay she has on top of her, but this works out really nice. This sizes up pretty well. Now next up we are going to have Hunter from the Bad Batch, and as you can tell he is definitely, I'm not going to say towering over her because that would be incorrect to say, but he's definitely larger. He has a bigger buck, overall bigger proportions, and he is the slightest bit taller. And if I take off their helmets, which is actually really tough on Hunter, and I don't want to scratch the paint, so I'm not going to do that, but maybe I'll do that for his actual review. But here, as you can tell, Hunter is definitely a bit taller than Bo-Katan, but it looks really nice. This looks like what it would probably realistically be like in real life and in the show. And of course this wouldn't be a proper comparison unless we had the bad guy on the right, Moff Gideon himself, holding the precious dark saber. So as you can tell, Moff Gideon is supposed to be a slightly smaller guy, and for the most part it looks like he's just the slightest bit taller than, I don't know if that's correct in real life, but for the most part they are, you know what, it's not even fully evened down, huh? If I push down a little bit, yeah, so he's basically Katie Sackhoff's height, Bo-Katan's height, and that works out pretty well. That looks really good, and for the most part, if you have them in a diorama together, I think it's going to give you everything you want. So that is pretty badass how they were able to do that with these characters right here. Hold on, let me light that up. Let me lock that. Yep, so perfect. Again, I think that this is going to line up pretty nicely. Alright, and here on the left we have the Mandalorian himself, but this right here is going to be the SH Figure Arts version. Now obviously SH Figure Arts gives you that extra level of overall detail, articulation, and just the aesthetic look itself looks obviously more realistic overall, but that's not to say that for the price tag difference this Bo-Katan is bad. On the contrary, this looks really nice. And in your diorama, if you have them together, they wouldn't look out of place with each other, and that's the biggest thing that I like about these figures. Now obviously if we did get an SH Figure Arts version of the Bo-Katan, it would obviously be better in its own ways, but for the most part what we see here, this looks really nice and not out of place, which is what I'm looking for, and one of the reasons why I've decided to get back into purchasing in you know, as much as I can from the Black Series, because again they've done such a good job thus far. Alright, and now on the right we do have Kamen Rider Saber, and I'm not gonna lie to you, this is my first Kamen Rider and I don't know how tall they normally are, and how tall the Kamen Rider normally are to, let's say, other lines of the SH Figure Arts, but this doesn't look out of scale at all. It does look a little on the large size, and really you can tell because of how much he kind of dwarfs, and not, let's say, dwarfs, but he's just bigger than, let's say, the Mandalorian. If I were to put the Commando in here, though, the Commando would be just as tall as him, so technically this I don't think is out of scale in the slightest. This could definitely work if you were to do some kind of diorama with everybody or some kind of crossover diorama. I think this looks really good, and I'm telling you guys right now, I got this saber probably about 30 minutes before I did this review, and he's pretty fucking dope. I'm considering doing him as my next review after Bo-Katan, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Now, just to make sure we do get some other lines in here we have the character from Sekiro. I forget his name off top. I don't think it's Sekiro, but he's from Figma, and Figma usually runs a little small, but Sekiro himself is a fairly good size, and as you can tell, just size-wise, this could technically be possible, but the proportions of these figures are very different, and that's what stands out here more than anything else. And now, just for the hell of it, we're gonna have E Honda, and as you can tell, E Honda is Yeah, that doesn't even really fit. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. Yep, this doesn't really work. Honda is ginormous, and a lot of the people that are supposed to be fighting against him are also large, and even the female characters are obviously bigger because this is Storm collectible. So that doesn't necessarily work, but it's it's still pretty cool. It's pretty badass. You guys really thought I wasn't gonna pose her with the Darksaber? Come on now. Of course I had to. I had to definitely take that look and see what she would look like. And yeah, she looks pretty badass. So to cap this all off, guys, let me just go ahead and say it. This is a figure that is a cut above its price point. It is worth the purchase price, and it is worth a little bit more if you can't get your hands on it through retail and you have to go through third party. I think that it is worth a few more dollars. I don't think it's worth an SH Figure Amount's price. No, the Cara Dune was, because we know that we're never going to get that again, so that's an exception. But in this case, this is a really dope looking figure overall. It gives you a lot of posability, a lot of articulation, different ways to pose it thanks to that helmet coming off and showing her real face, and her real face is pretty phenomenal. This is a must buy for not just anyone who's a Star Wars fan, but if you're into any kind of sci-fi, this is a dope piece, a phenomenal looking piece, done very well for the price point. And I think that this is going to look good with anything, any kind of sci-fi, any kind of Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever it is you're into. This is a piece that I think any kind of collector would not want to pass up. I think you're really going to enjoy what you get in the box, and obviously it's just a figure, you know, as I mentioned, cut above what it really is. Alright, you guys, so as I mentioned before, if you did like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below. As I might have mentioned before, I am going to be doing newer content, not just on figures, but on some other things. And I do need your guys' feedback to know where it is I should be trying to direct some of my time and what I'm going to be presenting to you guys, because I do want to obviously start diversifying what I'm putting out there. And your guys' subscriptions really help me just basically get seen more and give me an opportunity to be able to get more feedback from the community itself, so I can direct myself on which way I should go. So as I mentioned, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think at the bottom. Let me know what you guys think of this figure, and whether or not we're actually ever going to see the finality of basically what the Bo-Katan story is going to be in The Mandalorian. All right, you guys, but until next time, I am your host, Nello, and I will see you guys on the next transition.